Bangladesh. How does this ban on Awami League now alter the diplomatic chemistry that we've been seeing between Delhi and Dhaka? What should India's next move now be? Because Randir Jaiswal says that, yeah, of course, due process wasn't followed and the founding party of Bangladesh has been outlawed, completely busted. It's certainly concerning, but he leaves it right there. What next? What must India now next do?
Look, I think, yes, I think the statement by the Ministry of External Affairs was a good statement, but I think that you cannot just leave it right there. I don't think that the people of Bangladesh are accepting this decision to ban the Awami League just like that. This is a completely arbitrary, undemocratic decision taken just because the Awami League continues to have its popularity. The Awami League's, 40% share of the vote is still intact. And it is this 40% share of the vote being still intact that has worried the Jamaat-e-Islami and, of course, the front of the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is Professor Muhammad Yunus, who has been doing the bidding of the Jamaat-e-Islami for the last 8 to 10 months. And I think that while you may say the decision has been taken, where is the democratic process? Is this a democratic government? It's not an elected government at all. It's a purely self-appointed government. So I think to say that a self-appointed government can decide which party will take place and not take place, this is exactly what they were accusing former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of doing. That, they were accusing her as though she had chosen not to allow the BNP and other parties to take part. Actually, the BNP themselves had decided not to take part in the elections. So actually, it was a completely democratic process, but the BNP decided for its own political reasons not to take part in the elections. If they had a very good chance of getting elected because anti-incumbency, it is known, was very strong. It always is in Bangladesh. Anti-incumbency is a huge factor in Bangladesh. So I think that this factor that you can just make a one-line statement that the Home Ministry of Bangladesh has made, and then after that the Election Commission removes Awami League from the electoral rolls, I don't think that's just too smooth, and it will not carry any weight. As it is, the elections are being consistently delayed. And the process of reforms, so-called reforms, is being brought in, which again is not the job of a self-appointed interim government. It is a job only of an elected government, an elected parliament, to decide on constitutional reforms, to decide on electoral reforms, to decide on police reforms, or whatever else in the administration that the elected government may like to do. And you cannot deny the elected government that right. And in the same way, you cannot just, if some decisions were taken, you have on your own, this small cabal of people who is pretending to run the government of Bangladesh is now saying that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was not democratic. She, was a dictator. On what basis are you saying that? Elections were held every 5 years. The economy was growing consistently. The economic growth has halved, less than halved in the few months that this regime led by Professor Muhammad Yunus has been in power. The foreign exchange reserves have collapsed. Jobs are very difficult to come by. Factories have closed down. Inflation is reigning supreme. And it's a really very difficult situation. You may show visuals of a few Islamists, because it's only the Islamists on the street now who are, as you are saying, I think by showing those visuals, that these Islamists are welcoming the decision to ban Awami League. But that is because the Islamists know that if the Awami League is still a registered party, and if you have free, fair, and inclusive elections, then certainly the Awami League will win. So I think the pressure of the world community must now gather, and India, I think, is leading the surge here of opinion against the interim regime in Bangladesh, and telling them that they must have free, fair, and inclusive elections. You can't arbitrarily take people off the roll just because a few people are scared of the popularity of the Awami League. So I think that, the very way in which the interim regime thought that, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, and that if Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina leaves the country, there will be no popularity for her. But it hasn't proved to be like that. The Awami League organization is intact. The popularity is intact. They've had demonstrations.
There was a recent protest as well, Ambassador, on the streets of Bangladesh when the announcement, came to the fore. I'm going to quickly cut across to Suhas Chakma, Director for Rights and Risks Analysis Group. Mr. Chakma, we're witnessing the collapse of democratic space entirely. We were earlier talking about the stifling of journalistic voices, clampdown of journalistic freedom in Bangladesh, and we've been also speaking about various aspects of Bangladesh for various amounts of times. What does this mean for human rights in Bangladesh? I mean, you've documented the attacks on minorities. You've written that entire report on stifling of journalistic freedom. Ambassador here is talking about how global pressure should now be put on Bangladesh and how India needs to play that crucial role over there. But I'm trying to understand what next for human rights as well, because democratic space has completely collapsed, and Yunus and Mr. Alam, they only want to delay and push these elections further.
See, international community is not going to act for quite some time because Yunus is their fellow. So we have to take that into account. And I think the story has not completely unfolded as. I mean, in a couple of weeks' time, we will see there is going to be something called July Declaration. And I think what we have seen at this point of time, banning of the Awami League without even holding the trials. Because the Awami League has not been found guilty. The people from the government have not been found guilty. The trial process is not completed, but you still have banned Awami League retrospectively. But all these things will be accepted because the Nobel laureate is seen somebody by the Western world as very democratic. But this democratic caretaker chief advisor, he is going to soon announce, and he is possibly after the July declaration, which they are in the process of drafting and for which they are building up, he is possibly going to be the president, Dr. Yunus of Bangladesh. Possibly then they are going to change the army chief. They are going to change many other things, and there is no plan for them to hold elections.